I'm Gab. He's Jules. I'm told it's extremely cold in London, but we don't care.
We don't care.
Because we're in Doha, where there's actually a nice breeze and
Yeah, it's
it's
lovely, lovely
pleasantly
night.
cool. But what is heating up, Jules, is the World Cup because we have our first finalist, and it's Argentina. And tomorrow night we'll find out who our second finalist is.
Yeah,
Will it be reigning world champions France,
yeah.
or will it be the big upstart to this World Cup, Morocco? I think most people here in Doha, I got to tell you, are rooting for Morocco.
Leave me alone. I don't
Anyway,
care.
we're gonna try to do our best to try to preview that, but we got to start with Argentina beating Croatia. And Jules, I'm gonna come out and say this. I've been critical of Argentina in the sense that I felt that they hadn't put in a 90-minute performance,
Yeah,
maybe against Poland in the group stage, but certainly not against Australia, where they allowed Australia to get back into the game
yeah.
at 2-1 and had a scare at the end. Certainly not against Holland, where they generally dominated the game, but then eventually got back to 2-2, went to penalties. This was a commanding performance, and I think credit has to go to Scaloni. Some players obviously shown. Alvarez, Leandro Paredes, I thought as well. Rodrigo de Paul had a good game as
Yeah.
too. Um, and there was no Messi dependency. Messi was like the cherry on top with what he did for the third goal. In terms of growth, this is a team that's getting stronger as the tournament progresses.
Yeah, which is what we kind of expected after the defeat against Saudi Arabia. We said you can't forget what happened before that and the run that they've went on under Scaloni leading into this World Cup. And yeah, that was a freak result. It really was. And nothing really went their way that day. But you knew that it was not going to go back to scratch. However, they had to find the right formula. They had to change a few things. I think Scaloni, certainly of the last four teams, the last four head managers, head coaches, sorry, is the one that has changed the most compared the others. You can pretty tell me the starting 11 of
Yep.
the other three. With him, and as we saw again today, with the four central midfielders that started, he keeps trying tactically to outsmart you, to change something, as long as it's just Alvarez and Messi up front, because that doesn't change.
It was interesting because obviously we talked about this before. The way Croatia beat Brazil, Zlatko Dalic says, "I have the best midfield in the world." We can debate whether it's true or not, but I think it's pretty darn close in Mateo
Yeah, yeah.
Kovacic, the Braz, and of course Luka Modric. And against Brazil, what did they do? They kept the ball, they outpossessed them, they made Brazil chase them, and they picked their spots, and then eventually they prevailed. Now, Argentina, it was clear to me that this is what they were going to do because they're playing to their strengths. So how did Scaloni counter that? He went with four midfielders. He ditched the back three that we saw against the Dutch. He put Paredes in there.
Yeah.
You have another guy who can pass the ball. I'm not a big Paredes fan, although I thought he was very, very good
He played well.
this evening. We were both at the game. We just came back, by the way. If we look a little disheveled, you know why. Um, and that really, really disrupted. Now, in the end, by the end of the game, you'll see that Croatia had 60% possession, whatever. But it doesn't matter because in
Yeah.
terms of big chances, Croatia created very, very little.
Only two set pieces, yeah, and I think to go back on Modric, because I think the stats, in a way, sums it up well. Started okay, started well, but then had his lowest passing accuracy of the whole World Cup. Only 5 passes in Argentina's final third compared to 22 against Brazil, for example, where, okay, he played extra time, so that was an extra half an
Right.
hour, and he came off today after 81 minutes, but still only 5 passes, which meant that when Luka Modric had the ball and the passes that he managed to do, hardly none of those passes were actually in an area that could impact the game and that could hurt Argentina, which shows you how well they kept him quiet. I mean, they kept quiet Brozovic. Kovacic was a bit different because he's got more dynamism. That's what he does. He runs with the ball and he progresses with the ball so well. And yeah, you're right. That's where they won the game. They got a bit lucky, Argentina, let's be honest, on the two goals.
I was gonna say that the first two goals, I was gonna say that I rode back from the Lusail Stadium up the road with somebody who was telling me how lucky they were, how they were a bit lucky.
No,
for the first goal. That person, of course, was you, Jules.
Yeah,
And
but you have to be honest. It's true.
so the first goal is a case of I don't know if Lovren gets confused, turns the wrong way. He's entirely out of position.
But before that, Modric almost intercepts the ball.
Yeah. So you can make that point, and it goes through, and then Livakovic brings down Alvarez. Nothing Livakovic
Yeah.
can do, and Messi converts on the spot. But again, I think that's kind of the sort of luck that you make a little bit,
Yeah, yeah.
like on the second goal, where, I mean, Alvarez goes through like a runaway train, right? He picks up the ball inside his own half. It's a loose ball coming off a transition. He goes into the box. The ball actually carams twice off of Guardiola and once off of Borna Sosa, and then he just kind of pokes it in. The ball could have gone anywhere before that, but it's made by the fact that he's pushing, he's sniffing, he's there. So when the door of luck opens, he's there to take it. And then at 2-0 in the second half.
The game is over.
But I think even if they hadn't scored, it felt to me, I mean, Argentina came really close, I think, with a header. I think it was Tagliafico just before halftime as well. Could have been 3-0. It seemed to me like early in the second half, Croatia were entirely out of steam. And we saw that because 5 minutes into the second half, he abandons the possession game. He takes off the bras. And at that point, it's wingers, it's Petkovic, it's Croatia going direct. Scaloni counters by going back 3. And at that point, effectively Croatia become one-dimensional. And they lose.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the game was dead at halftime anyway, regardless of what anything Dalic could have done. I mean, they didn't believe in it either. They were just not on the day. They were just not good enough overall, and they didn't have a striker in this tournament. They went that far without a real striker, like a proper good striker.
Kramaric thanks you.
He's not very good.
Petkovic thanks you.
He's not very good either.
Budimir
So
thanks you.
even less. So this is where we are. So if you go a goal down, unless you've got something like against Brazil where you're not gifted the goal, but it's very much helped by the opposition, it was always going to be very difficult to come back today. And Argentina, as you mentioned to me in the car on the way here, this time stay composed until the end. Maybe because they were less tired, because before that they didn't give enough out, give as much as energy out as they did against the Dutch, for example, or even against Australia. I don't know, but they certainly look more composed and much more in control for the last 20 minutes that they ever did.
Well, and in the last 20 minutes, we also saw, while you say the game was over at halftime, we saw what I thought was one of the more remarkable things that I've seen in a football pitch, and I've been watching World Cups and football for a very, very long time, and that is the goal that Messi sets up for Alvarez. Messi receives the ball on the right inside his, kind of just inside the Croatia half. He has Josko Guardiola in him, who is not just one of the outstanding center backs in this tournament, one of the outstanding center backs in Europe. He's a guy who's 15 years younger than Messi. Yeah. And you figure, if Messi's going to beat, at least what I figured, Messi's going to do a bit of skill. He's going to nutmeg him or something. He's going to make him fall over, and he's going to scurry away from him. That's how he can beat him. Or Messi's going to draw him and other defenders to him, and he's going to pull off a ridiculous pass, like for the goal against the Dutch, right? When he draws people in and whatever. Instead, Messi runs, the ball sticks to his foot. It seems like he takes a million steps, right? And he ends up beating Guardiola through athleticism. Skill obviously as well, because the ball sticks to him. But he ultimately runs around him.
True, but
how do you do that?
The dummy is outstanding. For me, the dummy is outstanding. I mean, it turns him over twice, which is really remarkable.
But then he goes around him. He turns him over,
but in the box, so he gives away a penalty, Guardiola. I think Guardiola is limited once Messi has turned him over the second time, because otherwise it's a foul. But I thought that Guardiola would have literally cut him in two way at the start of the move, and instead, once Messi's in the rhythm like that, you can't stop him.
I thought that
was amazing.
I thought that was really special. One of the best pieces of skill that I've seen in this World Cup.
Yeah, completely.
Now, in terms of numbers, obviously Messi setting up Alvarez for that goal. Alvarez with the 2 goals.
Alvarez got 7 goals now in 8 starts for Argentina. He's proven so good. And you know what I love tonight, which we noticed already against the Dutch as well, is that, well, I mean, he presses a lot and runs a lot. This is what he does. But also, everything that he does, all the runs that he makes, that either stretch the defense. He can come short as well, and he did it a few times tonight. But he's looking for that runs, those runs over the top, and the runs that will stretch that defense, which, for example, Brazil never really did against Croatia. No. Whereas this time, when you don't just play in front of Lovren and Guardiola, it's far harder for them, like we saw in the first goal, where Lovren is just like, whoa. And Alvarez brings you that. It's not perfect, and he's still very young, but what a future he has.
The amount of running that Alvarez does. And look, I don't know if he's ever going to be a prolific goal scorer. On the way over, we bumped into Hernan Crespo's in studio next door. Yep. And then just outside here was Sergio Aguero, right? So those two guys, two legit goal scorers to the forwards. I don't know if Alvarez will grow into be that type of player in terms of goal production. But in terms of running and effort, because you talked about him pressing for Argentina.
Yeah.
Pressing is something that needs to be collective. When the other guy up with you is Lionel Messi, it's not going to be collective pressing. It means you have to, because otherwise you just run around, like a maniac on your own.
Really, on your own, yeah. It's
And
pointless.
there's an intelligence, there's an incredible work rate to the way this guy moves because he's not getting the help from Messi. Understandably. Nobody's having a knock from Messi. Calm down, Messi fans. I thought that was exceptional. In terms of Messi, some numbers. Messi scored his 11th World Cup goal. He's well behind the record. He's not going to beat it this World Cup unless he scores, I think, 5 goals in the final, which is messy, but
it's still possible.
But he became Argentina's all-time leading goal scorer at a World Cup, passing the legendary Lion King, Batigol, Gabriel Batistuta, and he equaled the record for appearances in a World Cup with 25 held by Lothar Matthäus, a record that we presume he's going to break. He's going to break on Sunday in the final.
Yeah, you would think so, and so I think now he's on 25. He will get to 26 if everything goes well for the final, which is likely to be his last ever World Cup game. I mean, come on, unless he plays at 39 in the US, which is very possible, but we don't have that vibe and that feeling right now. So he could win his first World Cup, and the first one for Argentina since 1986, as well as breaking a record that I'm not sure will ever be beaten, or it might be beaten by someone like Julien if he keeps playing.
Of course, it's Julien who's going to beat the record.
But if he plays 7 games every time he plays the World Cup, and he's 23
France
now.
to the final in every single World Cup. It's only going to take him 4 World Cups to get to 28
exactly.
and beat Messi's record.
Exactly. So, let's see. But still,
or you know what?
What a special day.
He doesn't need to get to the final. It can be a whole bunch of third-place games. It's always so exciting. When you love
always
that.
So exciting. But yeah, so what a special day Sunday could be for Messi, of course.
A word on Croatia, because I think they gave everything we have. We've talked about the spirit, the small nation, big voice.
Yeah,
blah, blah,
of
blah.
course. Yeah, great generation too.
Dalic pushes all the buttons. I'm curious to see, talk about generation, I'm curious to see what it's going to be going forward. You might get another couple years out of the Bras. Dalic has said, I'm on Modric to stay.
Okay, Modric is 37.
Let's see what Modric says.
And to be fair, because I'm writing on Modric for the website, and I looked closely at him at the end. It felt like, and it looked like he can always change his mind, but it looked like this was the last game, and he might play on Saturday in that third place playoff game. But it looked, the way he said goodbye to everybody, the way his body language, and obviously he was gutted to have lost a World Cup semi-final. Of course he was, but still he felt very much. There was a wave at the end towards the Croatian fans who were behind the goal on our right, where we were sat. It felt a bit like that, but again, it might be tempted to stay, although 18 months is a long time for someone who's 37 before the Euros.
I just think I've been so impressed with what Dalic has done in this World Cup against Brazil. Before that,
Against Japan.
I mean, between this World Cup and obviously the previous one where they got to the final and lost to France, I thought that was absolutely exceptional.
Incredible.
And a lot of those stereotypes that we talk about in sport about, never giving up, fighting till the end, digging deep, pride, all those words which are hot air, which every Little League coach has used. I mean, he uses them to great effect. And obviously he's had some phenomenal players as well. But, hats off to you, Zlatko Dalic.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.